thrilled participants and listeners from around the world. I'm Kristen Schwartz, licensed midwife and MC for Gold Learning. And here at Gold, we like to connect with experts in the field of maternal child health from all around the world. And we invite them to sit down with us to talk about their journey, share insights and information, and talk about their presentation that they will be having here at Gold. And today I have with me Sharon Storton. Welcome, Sharon.
Thank you.
It is lovely to have you here with us today.
I'm glad to be here.
So, Sharon, you will be part of the Gold Perinatal online conference in 2019, and we are very excited about the presentation titled Navigating Childbirth and the Perinatal Period Through the Lens of Aspergers and Autism Spectrum Disorders. Before we dive into the topic itself, can you tell our listeners where in the world are you located? We have an international audience here, and it's always fun to hear where our speakers are from.
I am in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, which is just east of the Rocky Mountains.
Sounds beautiful there. I have not been there myself, but it must be absolutely gorgeous there.
We're getting into fall. It's beautiful.
Ah, lovely. Beautiful. Well, thank you for sharing that. Now, before we dive into the topic itself, can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, your professional journey, and anything you feel like you would like to share here about yourself with us today?
I am in Alberta a registered psychologist. I have been working with mothers and babies for decades in a variety of contexts. I was a board-certified lactation consultant. I've been a perinatal educator, and I am now and have been for many years working in the emotional, mental wellness area with women in the perinatal period.
How wonderful. And experts like you and out there in the field are so very much needed for mothers and families out there. I've read in your bio that a few years ago, and you created an internet-based peer support group titled Solace for Mothers, and that's still active. Tell us a little bit about that. How did that come to pass, and how has it developed over the years?
It was different when I conceived it than how it came to pass because it was close to the beginning of women using the internet for support and especially for peer support. So I had initially had in mind that it would be a kitchen table type organization with
Mhm.
women meeting at homes, perhaps like La Leche League.
Oh,
And after attending an international cesarean awareness conference, I began to realize that the scope of the concern about supporting women after childbirth that they had experienced as traumatic was much larger than I had realized. And some women approached me, thank goodness, who'd been active on a forum online and had in mind how to set this up so that it would keep women safe from reading stories that they did not want to be exposed to. And they could go in and read in a forum setting what was interesting to them. So they could read about how to find the right care provider. They could read about the different ways that one can heal from trauma. They could read about the different ways that they had experienced trauma or that they defined trauma. And it was a very, very supportive environment that was safe because of the way these women set it up. So they are still actually involved in this as well. And it's moderated and it's peer moderated and it's really largely peer supported. I sit in as a consultant, but I am not the scaffolding of this organization anymore, and it's still going. It's just very gratifying to see that women are supporting each other after all these years as enthusiastically as they were at the beginning.
it's absolutely wonderful. And as you mentioned in the beginning, there weren't that many places like this forum available. You know, as you said, it was in the time when we first started using the internet for finding support and such. Now, with social media and all the other outlets that we have, and forums and groups,
Mhm.
have you seen a change? I mean, the internet is a wonderful place, but it can also be a dangerous place, right?
Mhm. Mhm. I think the danger is having people accidentally become polarized. So you'll see there was a discussion a number of years ago on whether or not trauma could be defined as birth rape. And should women be able to use that word for that purpose when they came out alive and they had a live baby and maybe a healthy baby after that experience? And should that be a word that was used only under certain contexts? And in the end, I think it came about that the woman got to define what she felt and the ways that her birthing experience affected her. So I think the danger in the internet, like in any other circumstance, is accidental or even on purpose polarization, and recognizing that we're all coming at this from the same perspective. We want a baby that's well and healthy in all the ways that can be defined, and we want a mother the same, because really in birth, generally speaking, what's good for the mother is good for the baby. Mother baby are one.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing your insights there with us. I always find it fascinating seeing something in the, when it like from inception, so to speak, from this like a group that you created, how the development is, and that what we have today, and seeing all the different facets of it, and the world has definitely electronically changed a lot in the last few
Hmm.
years. There's a lot more information out there, and some of it is wonderful. I feel like when mothers are able to connect with each other, they can, find a community, especially when they're not living in an area where they can, have peers or support physically, but they have
Hmm.
forums available and they can chat with each other. But there's also, a lot of misleading information, a lot of wrong information out there too. So it's always a very interesting for me to see talk to
Exactly.
people about that as well. Now let's talk about your presentation, Navigating Childbirth and the Perinatal Period Through the Lens of Asperger's and Autism Spectrum Disorders. And when I saw that I was the MC for this presentation, I got so excited. I tell you, just by chance, with local in the local community here with some doulas and some midwives, we had this discussion, and we're looking for some resources and some information. And I remember some of the other birth workers, we were all saying there isn't much information, and why isn't it's really hard to find, and how do we
Hmm.
approach this? So when I saw this topic, I was very, very thrilled, and I think I can speak to for many of us here that because there isn't much. So tell us, how did this come? How did you become interested in this, and how did this presentation happen?
Well, it's the way that many things have come to me, and I felt that I didn't have enough information on the topic. I saw perhaps, oh, maybe 5 women over the course of several months, two of whom told me right from the outset that they'd had the experience of the diagnosis, and another couple of the women indicated to me that they were having these particular types of feelings or this particular experience within their birth setting that made me wonder if that was the situation. And so I went looking for what I could find. I looked to the organizations in our area for support on this topic, and they hadn't really noticed this being a topic within their support organizations, the groups that they offered, or the information they offered. So I tried going to PubMed and, Cyclet and
Hmm.
all those things online and found there really wasn't all that much. It's reasonably new to be diagnosing women, especially adult women,
Right,
with
right.
being on the autism spectrum. And it's even more recent that they're starting to look at how this will affect women in times around giving birth or in times of early attachment or even during the pregnancy. And so I found some blogs out there, but I didn't find very much in
Mhm.
professional to professional train the trainer type literature. So sometimes when I want to know something, I'll create a project for me to follow through on it so that it gets me to do all the research I want to do. And then I get to have conversations with other folks like you about what I have found interesting, what other people have learned. So, in the same way that Solace from Others was set up to support women who came to me telling me that they needed this particular type of support, women came to me telling me they needed something more specific for them within the context of experiencing childbirth while
Wonderful.
also managing autism type spectrum uh, symptoms.
Wonderful. Well, that's fantastic, and I'm so looking forward to this presentation. My last question here for you, what are your hopes to for our listeners when they come to your presentation that they take away from it? Very briefly, just a sentence or so for us.
Right. What I came to is a greater understanding that there's no one way to experience autism. There's no one way for autism to be experienced during the childbearing period. It got me to ask a lot more questions. And I would want always to have a woman-centered birth, and I think this is just one more way that we can go about that.
How wonderful. And yeah, this is what it's all about, having a woman-centered birth, having a family-centered birth, being able as care
Hmm.
providers assisting our clients make it, make them have a good experience and 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 be there for them. And the more we can learn, the better
Hmm.
is that for us as care providers or being out
Hmm.
there in the field. Well, thank you so much, Sharon, for chatting here with me today and talking about the presentation. It was a pleasure having you here with us today.
Thank you very much. It was a treat myself.
And now for our listeners, the presentation Navigating Childbirth and the Perinatal Period Through the Lens of Asperger's and Autism Spectrum Disorders will be live on October 21st and is part of the Gold Perinatal Online Conference of 2019. And if you want to find out more about this presentation and the other presentations in the conference, we invite you to visit our website. So go to goldperinatal.com. I hope we see you there. Bye bye, everyone.